guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we're going to look at the SOTA Street Fighter Revolutions Zangief, or Zangief. However you like to pronounce that, that's up to you. This is the player one in front, that's the green and yellow secondary color variant, whatever you want to call that, and that's the Mecha Zangief, or Zangief, on the right. All the same figure, they all have the same accessories, of course the paint matches. Actually, the green one doesn't need to have matching paint because it's just the skin, but the metal one has the gray parts. I'll point him out just because he's kind of a different type of variant. He's got this metallic gunmetal color throughout. It's actually pretty well done. The scars are slightly darker, so they still stand out. The hair is darker, the teeth and eyes are red. The paint could have been a little better on that. But otherwise, he's pretty cool looking, and definitely, if you're going to get Zangief and all of his variants, don't pass up on him. He's pretty good. There's a bit of a gap in his waist swivel, but that's pretty common for a Zangief, so not too much to worry about. Pretty cool figure. I'm going to set him aside. I'm going to set aside the green one, although personally this one has the best overall quality control. The player one version has some problems. This one's a little glossy though. I don't know what happened there. It's not the plastic, it's the paint, because it's solid. I mean, everything's painted on it, so I don't know why he's got that gloss thing going on. Who knows? We'll set it aside though. As far as accessories go, all he has is an alternate set of hands. That's it. Because he's massive, I'll do the height real quick just since I brought that up. He's pretty much the same size as Sagat, if memory serves. He's about 9.5 inches tall, or 8.5 inches tall. 8.5. So he's really big and he's really solid. He's heavy, probably weighs about 1.5 pounds. So really big figure, and that's why we only got 2 fist hands. The unfinished sculpt problem that we saw with the Zangief, or with Dhalsim and Honda, not quite as much of a problem with this guy. His nails aren't painted, but they are sculpted, and overall the sculpt is pretty close to done. It's not perfect, but it doesn't look nearly as bad as the other guys. These hands showed a little bit more though. It's still a little bit rough. Passable, but rough, so be careful. Not be careful, you can't do anything about it, just don't expect it to look perfect. As far as the sculpt goes for the rest of the figure, it's pretty good. They gave him a real narrow chest so that when you did this pose, it would work. You can get his arms out in front of him better, and it looks okay when you do that, but anything else, his chest is way too narrow, so that looks kind of weird. Otherwise, it's really good. He's got these big muscular legs like he should have. His boots are done fairly well. They're painted well. Really not too much to complain about. The scars are sculpted well. Good musculature everywhere else. It's just that really narrow chest. And if you've seen the picture of the other version that never got released, it had a really broad chest. It looked really cool. This one isn't that one. It had a better head sculpt too. This head sculpt's a little bit wonky. If you don't know what wonky means, it means something's not right about it. It's not horrible. I mean, it's got good detail and stuff, but it's not as good as it should have been. The hair's got some nice paintwork on it where it's not missing chunks. It does have shading. The eyes are painted fairly well. It's not horrible. It's just not great. Same thing with that hair too. It's got some shading, but it's not great. Articulation wise, everything's okay except for his hips. They get really loose. The only one that I have that's really loose is this one. The Mecha Zangief's fairly loose, but still okay. And the other one's fine. The green one's okay. This one, even though he's loose, his joints are so big, you can still balance him fairly easily. I mean, I didn't even try, and I posed him right there, and he didn't fall over. So, with any amount of effort at all, you won't have too much trouble with this guy. So, even when they do get loose, it's not too bad. A lot of people say he's extremely fragile and breaks easily. I've only ever had one broken Zangief figure, and that was because it was a stuck joint, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I tried to twist it off. And that's what I did. I twisted it off, but I fixed it. So if you're having problems with your guy falling apart, it's more than likely a bootleg. This guy gets copied a lot, and he falls apart very easily. Sometimes, like you saw in the Mecha Zangief, the waist twist is separated a little bit, but that's normal for the standard release. When you have a bootleg, you'll know. It'll be extremely loose everywhere. Things will break easily and fall apart easily. Otherwise, you might just have a little bit of a loose hip, and it's a standard release, nothing to worry about. Okay? Okay. He's got airbrushing throughout the entire figure to do the shading on the clothes, on the boots, on the skin, everything. So he's a pretty good looking figure. I really don't have too much to complain about. I wish his legs weren't loose, and I wish his chest wasn't narrow, and I wish the hands were finished more. But, and that probably sounds like a lot, it's still a good figure, and I really like it. The size is good. It's not the worst plastic. It's got a nice finish to it, so I'm okay with it overall. The articulation in the head is pretty good. He looks up okay, looks down as much as he can because of the chin hair and everything, the beard and the chest. But still pretty good range of motion. Good bicep swivel, or bicep, shoulder, ball disc, wow, losing my mind. So that's got pretty good range of motion. Bicep swivel there. Single jointed elbow, not a huge range of motion, but it's probably enough since he's so bulky. I'm okay with it. He's got a wrist swivel. It kind of looks awkward there because the arm is so fat and then the wrist gets really skinny for a second, but it's not horrible. And he's got a wrist pivot there. He's got a decent ab crunch. Doesn't go too far back due to the sculpt, but it goes forward pretty far, so that's okie dokie. Waist twist, like I said, T-jointed ball disc hips, so front to back, pretty good range of motion for a big guy. Zoom out a little bit. Good range of motion side to side. The thigh swivel works well. Single jointed knee, but you get about 90 degrees, and it's a pretty decent looking sculpt, so I'm okay with it. Like I said, the boots are sculpted fairly well. I'm okay with that. The laces are sculpted okay. The paint could be better for the laces, but they did paint the little black, I gotta figure out what those things are called. I never know what to call them. But the little black things around the laces are there. It's got an ankle pivot, and then it's got the new Marvel Legends style, which these guys did it first, of course, but that new rocker where the peg goes into the foot. So pretty good range of motion and articulation on this guy. The sculpt is good. Really, it's just those few things that are a problem, but he's still definitely worthy to go into the Street Fighter collection. So I do recommend him. Just don't expect to be blown away with quality control, and if you don't like the narrow chest, then that'll be a problem for you too. But otherwise, he's a pretty darn good figure, and I do like him. And like I said, take a couple seconds to pose him, and even if you do have the loose hips, you won't have too much trouble. So there it is, guys. That does it for the Revolutions figures. I still have Dan and Gouken to review since they didn't really fit in with the other reviews. So stay tuned for those guys. And in the meantime, let's keep collecting.